Alright, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, let's talk about this Davros change. If you don't know, in the 2023 Children in Need mini episode, we saw the Doctor go back to the time of the genesis of the Daleks. And there we see a version of Davros that, as you can see from the photo behind me, was no longer in his Dalek-like injured chair state. Now, I felt like it was really important for me to talk about this because, for those of you that don't know, I have two disabilities. I have cerebral palsy, which causes me to be wheelchair bound and not be able to walk, and I'm an ADHD sufferer on the neurodivergent scale. So I'm very, very qualified as a Whovian to talk about my feelings on this. Now, let me quickly say that I love Russell T Davies. I think Russell T Davies is the GOAT. He is the man that made me a fan of Doctor Who. It was his Christopher Eccleston era in 2005 that I jumped on board with, and his David Tennant 10th Doctor that is my all-time favorite, who I'm very, very excited to see continue as 14. However, I think his logic here, Russell's that is, of all disabled people need to be vindicated by not having themselves betrayed as villains is a backward way of thinking in this instance, because you can't wipe away history, especially with something celebrating its 60th anniversary like Doctor Who. Davros' state is vital to his character makeup. His injuries and his mindset and his reactionary tactics that caused him to be in the body of what would become the bottom half of the Dalek was directly responsible for the Dalek creation. By taking that away, you take away the fundamental reason for the Dalek's existence, and you alter the course of Doctor Who history. Now, this wouldn't be the first retcon, Timeless Child, anyone, but with other retcons, you could somewhat see how they work and somewhat see the creator's point of view for the reason they were doing things. This seems to be a reactionary thing to something that isn't a problem. And speaking as a member of the disabled community, I can tell you that I have never spoken to a fellow disabled Whovian who felt that Davros' portrayal was an issue. Is it problematic to think that a disability should be utilized as a trope to represent someone evil? Absolutely it is. But is it equally problematic to then, once a character has been established, retcon it for fear of reprisal? And the answer to that, I believe, is also, more importantly in this case, a yes. I don't feel that this was a necessary change. Now, if Russell T Davies' comments on Doctor Who Unleashed have been misconstrued, and he did in fact mean that this was a pre-Genesis episode and self-contained into this episode, it's a little bit more of an acceptable thing because it's just a one-off. If, however, this is intended to be a permanent change, which, judging by his passion when he spoke about it, it is, I am here to tell you that the disabled community did not want this change. And it's not just about Davros as a character being fundamentally changed, although I am, of course, speaking to Doctor Who fans right now. It is more about what I mentioned a moment ago, which is you start making reactionary changes to avoid offending people. There's a difference between offending someone and being preemptive for something that's not even going to potentially be a problem in the first place. Now, my friends, is a very, very slippery slope. Doctor Who, in the minds of some, has been on thin ice for quite some time, through the entire Chris Chibnall era. And the return of Russell T was supposed to be all about returning the show to the glory that longtime Whovians love and be the wonderful jumping on point for new Whovians to begin to learn what made this show great. It feels like this could potentially really sour that and make us fearful about what the future might hold. Is it going to stop me from tuning in on Saturday? Absolutely not. As I mentioned, I could not be more excited for the returns of David Tennant and Catherine Tate. But it does make me cautionary and hopeful that this isn't a sign of bad things to come. So that's my take. Feel free to stitch, duet, or comment down below with your takes, depending on if you're seeing this on the YouTube platform. And it's the only way that you can react to the video. I do plan on making longer form content in vertical mode again. I'm just trying to sort through the best way to use my camera. But I'm definitely going to be talking Doctor Who regularly now that it's back, because I love this show. And now, I'm going to get back to my personal watch of Classic Who and experience Peter Davidson's final adventure, The Caves of Atrasani. Talk to you all soon.